Yeah. So G Unit. So welcome to another episode of Blocks to Bags. I'm your boy Bejay.
I'm your boy Seb.
And this week we went to go see 50 Cent at the Arena in a box. It was lit.
Litty.
It was lit.
Had a
and
great time.
When he was doing his song, I get money, I get I get money I get. It just felt quite seismic and quite off the time with who we're about to interview today. We're interviewing a young man who's becoming Mr. Man of the world of audio right now and gaming. His name's Wilfrid Obeng. I met him before he started the business when he was the darling kid of the tech startup scene here in the UK. You know, he was like Google at one point. But his business has been built to a place where they're one of the few black founders coming out of the UK with a business valued over 100 million. And they're doing it in a very, very niche but cool way. They're doing ads programmatically in gaming without it coming at an expense to the user's experience. And they're climbing through the industry. 35 or even 36 staff, I should say. Offices in New York, offices in London, offices in Abu Dhabi. Wilfrid, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate both of you for having me.
No, it's an absolute honor and pleasure to host one of the top founders in Europe. To have you here on the show is a testament. I'd love to start off by this conversation I was having with Bejay around, is this a golden era for entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds from London and some of these big cities coming up? We've had one of our other friends, Timothy Armu, who's already exited our business. We had an event called Bag Drop, which brought together some of the top black founders from across the UK. We had Ivan Bleckley from Severa. We had Ava Estelle Yao. And it just seems like there's just this like renaissance of black entrepreneurs coming up. So what's your view and take of that?
Yeah, no, I think definitely. I think right now this is the best opportunity that I guess anyone from an underrepresented group has had to basically build a business. And I think the reason for that is technology has become like a great equalizer in a way. It's allowing a lot of people who were historically kind of cut out. So to give an example, like if you were in the finance field, like you were kind of basically cut out because you didn't have an uncle or auntie who was working in the finance field, or a mama or dad who was working in the finance field. Whereas with tech, it's like you can be anyone in your room as long as you have a laptop. Actually, you don't even need a laptop anymore, to be honest. As long as you have a phone, you can literally build a business or build something or create some content. And you're seeing this. Like, I just love the fact that like one of the most popular the most popular TikTok person is someone who hasn't said a word.
Gabby Lammy, yeah.
Gabby Lammy. So it's wonderful. I think it's great that people are finding creative ways, and I think we're seeing this now. I think the other thing I'd say is some of the reason for maybe the renaissance or more and more people from diverse backgrounds coming into and building businesses successfully is also, I think, you're seeing a lot of more people. And I think that's another thing with the internet's helped, actually. You can actually communicate and find out information about these other entrepreneurs and what they've done. And even myself, that's why I think it's actually important for me to speak more and actually share those experiences so we can get even more people come through the ecosystem.
Love that. What have you learned about yourself now? You know, you're entering 2024, it is 2023. You have obviously leveled up from being a technical individual to being a leader in a business. What are some of the stuff that you've learned that are like your non-negotiables when it comes to how you work and how you live and breathe right now? What's the mindset of an exec, you know, under 35, moving around in different continents and having to be sharp?
I think, definitely. I think you learn a lot. Like, you learn a lot about yourself, but not just about yourself. I think you just learn a lot in general about what you should be learning and what you should actually do to upskill yourself. And just to give you like a few examples, I will never forget, like my Google manager, he told me one day you'll see how hard it is to manage people. Like, and that's the most difficult thing. And you really realize that is so true. when you start managing people, and how much you need to understand the way you communicate versus the way someone else communicates. So I think a lot of stuff I've done is like introspective. So I've used stuff like Luminous Spark that actually shows you about your personality, and I've used that as a way to get a better understanding of the way I communicate. And the way I communicate is very direct, is very like evidence based, and sometimes you have to understand the person you might be speaking to is a much more empathetic person, much more creative person. So when you're talking like, where's the numbers, where's the data, what does the data show us, they're like, well, I'm just trying to like create a good experience. That's what I'm here for. And you're like, well, can you measure that? And you have to really sometimes step back and go, okay, let me change the way I communicate with people. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings from being someone who is more on just the technical side, where all the engineers kind of speak in the same language. You like, it's like, it can be very direct. An engineer doesn't get upset. It's like, oh, okay, we understand, we just need to create this and there's no problem. Whereas you realize, oh, actually, when I'm talking to a creative person, then I need to be a bit different around the way I communicate. I think the other thing I've realized is balancing your work life, where you're very direct and very like, you set expectations and you want them delivered, versus, you know, when you go back into the real world, and it sounds kind of funny because they're both the real world, but when I say the real world, I mean like when you go back into your day-to-day world, and then you're still sometimes it's hard to switch off that very like, oh, we need to do this, we need to get that done, and you can become very impatient because you're, as a startup, you have to go at 1,000 miles an hour, so I don't even know, 1,000 million miles an hour to just build all of this stuff, and you kind of then forget, actually, I need to pause and make sure I'm measuring myself correctly when you're having personal relationships or speaking to other people. So I think that's also another learning. How to balance that has also been a tricky thing. So I'll say those two.
Nice.
So one thing you were talking about is setting up your offices and company in different countries. So we call this internationalization, going into different markets. I work at a VC fund, and that's one thing that we help companies with. To get to that unicorn status, you can't just be having your eye on just one market. You can't just be having your eye on the UK market. You have to look at the UK. You said you've opened up an office in the Middle East and New York. Talk to me about the process of internationalization, globalization. Like, how do you, number one, what made you think about going to the Middle East at first? And like, what's the actual process in terms of execution?
Yeah, I guess I can start that by I can say you can thank Christian partly for that, because I think I was going on holiday to Dubai, and Christian asked me a question around, he was looking at like all of the reports of advertising, and he noticed that there's a lot of audio advertising spend happening, especially in like the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, in terms of like people spending a lot of money on advertising within podcasts and stuff. And he said, if I had a moment or met someone, it would be good to understand why that is. And I remember just thinking, yeah, look, I'm not going to do that. I'm here on holiday. I don't have time for that. So I remember literally that was my thought process. But it kept going on in terms of the holiday, and I remembered actually there was this is the power of networking, right? I was part of a program which I decided to apply for, which was Founders of the Future. And that is basically another one of the ventures from Brett Hoberman. And I met at that event another person who had basically been on the program. And I remember at the time I looked on Instagram and they were in Dubai at the same time. I was like, oh, do you know what, actually? There's someone I know who's also in the entrepreneurial space. Let me just connect with them. And this is where I say you have to also, when I said shout loudly, you have to put yourself out there. Yep. Like, I could have easily said, oh, I'm on holiday, let me not do that. My first thought. But then you have to make yourself uncomfortable and go, you know what difference is it going to make? I meet them for 1 hour in wherever they are in Dubai. We're both here. I might as well ask. And when I had that conversation, that's when he mentioned, oh yeah, there's loads of different things for startups in the UAE and the Middle East. And I was like, oh, okay. Explain some of them to me. He's like, oh yeah, like you get like subsidies to bring people and bring talent into a lot of these countries. And the reason for that is a lot of them have a vision around being the creative hub of the region, because they notice a lot of the people in the region were consuming a lot of the like media, entertainment, gaming. And you're seeing it now, especially with Saudi, like a lot of the stuff that the Crown Prince is doing is around gaming and media entertainment. But at that point, for us, I was like, actually, this is really interesting. So then he connected me with someone who was running Hub 71, which is a major like startup incubator, if you like, in Abu Dhabi in the UAE. And again, this is the funniest thing about networking, right? I have a conversation with him. So I did a VC virtual call with him.
Yeah.
And the first thing is that he then goes, oh yeah, this is really interesting, but if I'm honest, you should go to this other incubator we have in Abu Dhabi, which is for gaming, media and entertainment. So again, this is like one conversation that's moved to this conversation, that's then moved to this conversation, which is eventually, if you fast forward loads of steps, ended up with us creating an entity in Abu Dhabi because of the way the government were offering us subsidies, offering us office space in Yas Island, and obviously offering us an ability to be in a place where not only is it game developers, but we're seeing loads of other media and entertainment companies. So you got like Ubisoft and other people in the same ecosystem. So that was the reason why we wanted to open an office in Abu Dhabi. And then if you look at other offices like New York, it just makes sense in terms of advertising and getting a lot of budgets from places like New York.
What are some stuff you've learned now that you didn't know then?
Some stuff I didn't know. You say that I didn't.
Yeah, like opening first office that you know, because obviously in the UK you just like go hubble.com, you can rent an office, you can go to the office group, get an office, register a business online, it's registered the next day. Opening Abu Dhabi is not just I don't think it's going to be that many quick steps.
No,
let alone New York, where you have to be on a certain visa. If you're there traveling versus work visa, it's got to be registered as some sort of entity.
100%. And I think it's also easy for people to get scammed and also just go down the wrong way. So for me, I'm always very particular around doing like extreme amount of research and then going through the channels. And I think the reason why I decided to go with 2454 and AD Gaming, so Abu Dhabi Gaming, is because of the fact that it's a government entity you're dealing with. Now, I think there are some that you do have to keep in mind that there are cultural differences in the terms of like way like we do things in England might be like is that you just go on you can go on literally go on the internet right now and build a company and get it started literally in 15 minutes and it'll be on company's house and you can see all the information. That's not how it works in all the other countries like the US and UAE, for example. So for them it's a bit of a longer process where they're trying to vet you, see what you're building, see if you're a company that would be worth, because to be honest with you, they're investing in a different way where they're investing via subsidies and bringing you on board, with the idea being that when you expand, then obviously it makes sense for the country because you're bringing all of this wonderful talent, but also then it means that more homegrown things are actually created. So they're not just consuming content, but they're actually building content for the world. And I think that has been great. And I think once you get your mind into, as I always say, you always have to, as soon as you land, you have to reprogram your mind to what the rules of that particular country. So for example, in the UK, like I'm very familiar with how it works, but when I go to America, I know I have to pitch differently. Like the way we sometimes as Brits pitch is very self-deprecating. It's like, oh, like we're number 2 or 3. Like in American culture, that's not how you pitch. It's like they want the best of the best, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the culture. Like they want the best of the best. It's competitive. Who's gonna be like it's one-on-one, if you like basketball. Like it's who's going to basically score the most amount of points, and that's how you have to think. And in Britain, you have to dial it back because some people might think, oh, if you do that pitch, oh, you're very arrogant. Like why? Like you didn't even give us a moment, to interject or speak. And then in the Middle East, it's more about relationship.
Yeah.
So you really understand that it's not just come in there and keep talking about your business. It's really try and get to know this person, and they're trying to get to know you before they do it. And in some ways, I preferred that. It's like you actually build a relationship where you know that in like 10 years, if either one of you phone each other, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know this person. Yeah, like we work together. They're really cool, or like we've done business before. So yeah, you just have to really change your mind. And I think I've seen a lot of people get frustrated in any of the different cultures when you try and be so arrogant as to think that this way is the right way and I'm only going to do business this way and I'm going to ignore all of the other cultural nuances. I think it's a recipe for disaster, and you really need to just almost leave all of that stuff. Like I said at the start of that play journey, is when you land, you have to be like, okay, these are the rules of engagement here.
Yeah. So I've got a couple quick fire questions that I have here, which So, man, I'd like to ask. There's something that we like to ask our guests on the kind of show. We like to mix it up a little bit sometimes. So I'll start off with, what's your favorite tech tool?
Ooh.
Google Drive for me.
Favorite tech tool? I could be lazy and say ChatGPT, so I'm going to not say that. I'm going to say my favorite tech tool is probably Slack. And the reason for that is I do not like emails. I find Slack I find sometimes like WhatsApp, and I like that. Because if you want to get something done quickly within a team, I can just be like, hey guys, can we change this thing in the workflow? Like, it'll be interesting. This is the reason. And you don't have to give so much reasoning. Whereas an email, and you can't go back on an email. And Slack, you can edit the post. So I think in some ways I do like it. I know some people have some issues with like around the amount of channels and stuff, but I just think the way it's managed to transform us back into that quick, get things done, WhatsApp-esque movement, whereas I don't see that with email. Email is like, everyone's like, oh, I was supposed to have email in 2 days. That's not Slack though. See, even people have a different mentality, and I would have to say Slack.
I love that. We ain't doing emails in 2024. What's your number one personal productivity hack?
Ooh, productivity hack. Number one, do all my work on the plane. I would say that. It sounds bad. And actually also, no, I do know my productivity hack. Scheduling emails. Sorry. So just literally getting all the emails that you want to send and scheduling them beforehand. I think that, because again, it feeds into the fact that I don't like emails. So if I can just schedule them all, I feel so much more comfortable than doing that. But yeah, I'd say, also, the reason I made that joke about doing them on the plane is because it's a quiet space where I'm just able to just literally do all of the emails without any pings, with any emails coming in. So I do like that in terms of the productivity piece.
I love that. Your number one company growth hack?
Case studies. Get case studies immediately. So whether you can, even if you have to do something for free to prove the value, get the case study. Because people, like, we as human beings, and this is why I love the psychology of marketing more than even probably marketing, is that people a lot of the time are pushed by fear of missing out. So when they see a case study of their competitor or a big brand doing something, they're like, oh, okay, if they are able to take the risk on you, and at that point, if you're a startup, it is a risk for a lot of bigger companies to do that, then a lot of other people go, oh, that's a great signal. So I'll say whatever you can do to get a case study, whether that mean that you do it for free, you do it like as a reduced cost, you should definitely, or you put it in the contract that, hey, if it's successful, can we get a case study? I think that's one of the most important things.
Okay. What is your favorite podcast or most valuable podcast that you're listening to?
Favorite podcast? Oh, that's a great question. I kind of like dive in and out of podcasts, but I'm trying to think. I'm probably like missing one. I funny enough, I think I probably watch and listen to more hip hop.
Okay, cool.
Podcasts than I do even tech podcasts, if I'm honest. But yeah, I would say I don't really have a favorite one. I kind of dive in and out. Like if it's on YouTube and I see it and it's like an interesting topic, I'll probably just dive into it.
Fantastic. And I think time permitting, we'll end with one last one and then maybe go into a dilemma or something. What is a thought or a framework that you want people to take with them to 2024?
Always work smart, not hard. I think I'm really, as I said a bit earlier, I'm really tired of this whole advice that people love giving, where they every time it's like you watch that YouTube video where someone's in a nice car and they ask them how they got it and they say you're working hard, and I'm like, that is like 5% of the truth. Like if like I would say the majority of a lot of people you see is network. It's like access to information, and that's what that network gave them, which then allowed them to build something. And if you look at a lot of the reasons for people's success, it is the environments they were in at the right time. It is a bit of luck. I'm not saying there isn't any luck there, but it definitely, I would say, just work smart in terms of what I mean by that is to give practical example, not just say it like a phrase, almost like, because if I just say work smart, it just sounds like I'm saying work hard, right? is to actually learn how you can cut corners, but not at the extent or at the expense, sorry, I should say, of quality. And what I mean by that is use your network. Like ask people, like, hey, do you know someone who can help me with this? I'm trying to, build this deck that is to pitch my business. Could they give tips, because I know that they've already managed to raise funding, and can they help me structure it in a way that is more likely for me to succeed? So doing that makes more harder than, rather than spending 50 hours trying to finesse and work out how your deck should look, when you could have just asked someone who would give you all of the recipes, or ask multiple people and you take the best of all of their ideas and then build your deck from that way. So that's what I mean by work smart, not just every day like, oh, I'm just doing studying and the thing. No, actually ask someone who's already done it, and they'll give you the shortcuts of what you can do, or how you should present yourself, and even the nuances of just don't say that, because when you say that, although you mean it in this way, the other person on the other side might take it in a wrong way.
No, those are some gems, and that's some stuff that we can all take down for sure. So this is the dilemma section now. We'd like to give people a little something different for them to tap into. Go on, Seb, you want to give us a little dilemma to get
we've got we've got a couple, but I'll start with one interesting one around, like, how would you go about raising a round of £100 million or over for a startup? Now, this comes after a couple. This year we've seen a lot of AI startups, and one of the most recent ones is called Minstrel AI. They raised 105 million sort of seed round, and like, how would you go about doing something like that? What areas or technology would you look at? Like, how can Mandem from the block start thinking about raising these big rounds and putting their names in the hat when it comes to technology that's about to change the world?
I would say the first thing I would say, like, because as someone who's born and raised on a council estate, I think is the first thing before you even start trying to do these ideas is a mentality shift, in terms of you need to really understand what you're building, have the confidence in yourself, in what you're building, not arrogance, but the confidence in what you've actually built. I don't really care about like what you think you could do, what you've actually built and what you're offering. I think the reason why I say mentality shift is really important is you need to stop looking at it as almost that the investors are doing you a favor and whatever they tell you is exactly what's right. Because even for the investors, they're looking for someone who's a visionary, who can really pitch the vision and really say what is the actual value it brings. And then for them as well, like how it can actually 10x their money, or at least 3 to 5x their money if they were to invest. So you have to have a concrete plan and structure. So because a lot of people come in it a bit, willy-nilly, like, I'll just, do it like this, and we don't really have a plan. No, be very structured, very organized, very coherent with what your business plan is. And I think that's the first thing, getting that mentality shift right, being very data driven, so that when people challenge you on an answer, you can go back and say, hey, look, this is the data we have on this. This proves, they might have a preconception, which a lot of investors will. They have a preconception, oh, that's never going to work. Because it's easy for them to say that, because then they could dismiss it and go to the next call, right? But if you're able to go, well, actually, the evidence says the contrary. And we also thought maybe that people weren't really interested in this product. But actually, when we went to market and we actually asked a few people, they really were. And when we talked to the different stakeholders as well, they were also very interested. So it's definitely, number one, having the vision shift of exactly what you want to do, and mentality shift of what you want to do and really how you need to present yourself. And then secondly, I would say it's really important to really drone in on your presentation skills and also the way you articulate yourself in terms of when challenges arise. Because I think a lot of people will be like, they'll get challenged on a problem and they'll say, I don't know. Rather than I don't know, is like, you should have statistics on your stuff. And if you don't, you say, hey, we don't have that information right now, but I'll come back to you on that. And we'll do a follow-up email with that information that you've requested after we've done some additional research. And it's those kind of things that give people confidence in terms of this person is a visionary and this person is a founder. And I think the other thing I would mention, and the third thing is really good to have experience. And sometimes people think like, because you and Christian went to Meta and you went to Google, that's the experience, it's very easy for you to do. Like, no, it's actually, what did you learn from that experience and what makes you credible? And there's a lot of other people who didn't go to Google and Meta who are very credible people, which basically means they've built a business. For example, like if you were going to do a business around sneakers or whatever it might be, you'll be very credible if you already were building a sneaker business where you collected red speakers and selling them and you had a community of 10,000 people. That's credibility. In some ways, it's more credible than even, maybe having a degree in business and knowing how to do it, because you actually built a business in that field.
Yep.
And you actually know what you're talking about, but it's then having the confidence to articulate that. And that's why it's really important. It's like to say, hey, look, I know I maybe didn't go to Harvard, Stanford, whatever, but I have actually built this business from scratch. I know my customers. They speak to me. They give me the feedback, and I know what they want. And I have all of the data on all of these customers. All I'm doing is I need this amount of money to basically expand that business out. And I think it's definitely knowing and having confidence in your ability and your story, and having that experience in what you've built before and articulating that. So that'll be the third thing.
Love that.
Breaking it down. One last one to end with. Bejay, you were out in Dubai last year, blocks to bags. We did our first event in Cannes this year. We obviously met, we had a dinner, that was amazing. And we've always thought about not just the UK. We want to expand. We want to set some stuff up in the Middle East. We're looking at Africa, at different markets. Let's say, for example, we wanted to open up an office in Dubai because we're seeing the opportunities there. We're seeing the investments that are kind of being made. How would we go about doing that? Would we have to first...
And break down the services we offer.
Yeah.
So we have a media business. So we are able to make original content for clients. We do a lot of brokering or sponsorship deals for people to have audience. So there's people that have podcasts, 6 million downloads and 2 million downloads who we bring brands on the table to collaborate with them. And then we also have a community of business people who can't connect over day parties and over pitch nights as well.
So I think as we were just talked about, I think what you've outlined makes it super simple for someone to connect. And I think that's the first thing a lot of people don't do, is you've just listed and made it my life easier. And my head just went bing, 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 in terms of different people to connect with. So I think the first thing I'll do is talk to people like Dose of Society who do similar things in the Middle East where they're building content for different people. And Ahmed there would know a lot of the industry. And then the other thing is I know people who do day party events as well. So it's getting them, sitting down with them and understanding what are the challenges they've had, etc., around building a business and where they would say you should go, or what kind of maybe free zone or mainland, company you should talk to. And then generally, I would then give my own personal experience around, for example, you've now given me insight. I can say, hey, if you want to be in, and this goes into more business structure, right? Do you want to be in a free zone? Do you want to be in the mainland? And there's benefits and there's pros and cons to both. So free zones offer a lot of incentives. They're a lot of times they also have laws that are based on, for example, there'll be more. So to take the financial free zone in Dubai, DFIC, they will have laws that are more, would be more familiar to a UK audience in terms of they actually incorporate a lot of that in their actual in establishments, and also when you actually go to incorporate. So a lot of it makes it easier. So you see a lot of similarities. You go, oh yeah, that's very similar to UK, and that's because they've incorporated those laws on purpose. So there's things I can tell you in that way in terms of maybe you want to set up in DFIC, maybe you want to set up in Dubai Internet City, and then we can have a conversation about that based on the structure you want to have, and then I can introduce you to the relevant people because I'm connected with both of those in terms of I know people who can then hear what you're saying. You can have a VC call with them, and then you can actually build a business out there. Then there's other things I can tell you around the structure. For example, when it comes to VAT, where you should be registered, what not to do, what are good law firms, just in case that you might want to know for employment law, for example, because then that would be the next thing. How can you structure your employment laws? What does the visa process look like? So not only have I experienced it myself, but we also obviously sponsor a lot of visas for the people that we employ at AudioMob. So I know very thoroughly what a employment visa status should look like, and it will help, I guess, in terms of those are very practical, very granular steps, but it really helps avoid some of the nasty experiences people have when they don't go to the legitimate authorities and they basically just get their money scammed, and someone just takes their money for not, and then doesn't deliver on actually providing an Emirates ID, for example. So I think it's exactly what you did. You spelled it out for me. The first thing I would do is introduce you to people who are in a similar field of you. And in Dubai, that's not hard. A lot of people, like a lot of media and entertainment is happening in Dubai. A lot of media and entertainment companies have moved to Dubai or open offices in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi for that matter as well, in terms of across the Middle East, but also beyond the Middle East, of all having offices in MENA.
And prospecting clients. So you mentioned DFIC, stuff like that. So going out there, I think probably the first thing I'll be doing is set up meetings of the Ogilvies, Havas's, the PPs of the world, and then probably finding 1 or 2 conferences where I can see scale ups are going to, where we can obviously meet the rock star entrepreneurs behind it. Anything else you think we should think about before we move out? Like, did you guys move out making money already in Middle East, or was it first 6 months you're investing before you break even?
Good question. No, so when we moved out, we actually moved out because of moved out and started an office in the Middle East, to say. So the reason we did that was because of the benefits that the Abu Dhabi AD Gaming were offering us in terms of like office space, in terms of subsidies, etc.
Do they have different subsidies that are going right now? Because I've heard of some subsidies happening in Malta. It's something that UK entrepreneurs need to tap into more. Like, I got a friend out there, the Maltese government, I've paid for a cohort of them, 12 weeks. She's got a 2-bedroom apartment, all paid for, and she can just go build, and there's a big demo day. And then that gives incentive for her to stay there. We've obviously met people that run concerts, and they've been given 800K by the travel tourism to put on their festival there. So what kind of benefits are we talking about when you're talking about Abu Dhabi?
So it depends, and this is where this is why.
Where do you even Google stuff like this?
Yeah, so no, you can, and just a good question. So you can like Google like the UAE mainland companies, UAE free zones, and there's actually a list of all the different free zones. There's free zones in Sharjah, there's free zones in Iraq, there's free zones in Abu Dhabi, there's free zones in Dubai. And this is what I mean. Like, it's really important that people actually think about and outlay before they come, because a lot of people just come and are like, I just want to start a company. It's like, well, you need a plan. Like, you can't just say I'm going to start a company because you think you like the weather. That's
weather
not
and
really,
vibes.
You can't go on the weather and vibes. I'm like, you have to have a structure. Like, you have to really think about what you're trying to build before you build it, and then that can just define what kind of free zone. So I know people who've their free zones registered in Ras Al Khaimah. So right. So, and because of that, because they said they preferred the costing and they preferred some of the offerings that they provide, because, for example, you have activities under your business license that you can do, and sometimes in some free zones they allow you to have additional activities you can do. So not just like marketing or not just legal, you can do multiple at the same time, and they don't charge you additional fees. Some other free zones do. So it's really important that you actually understand and make an educated decision on that. In terms of, for us, because I guess like the reason and I think, as you said, every entrepreneur should be doing this, is like, there's 3 billion gamers worldwide. For us, like, our business is everywhere. So as an entrepreneur, you should be looking for these opportunities. Like, for example, in the UK, we have Innovate UK, so you can, apply for that. But as you said, in Malta, there's opportunities. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of companies, people haven't realized, move to Malta. There's also a lot of reasons people move to Estonia, because Estonia have very favorable digital setup processes. So a lot of people move to Estonia. You'll notice a lot of places, if you look at some of your favorite companies, they actually got a entity registered in Estonia.
We've seen Estonia, Money 2020, we've seen they had a whole 4-person booth, like a 4 space booth. Come to Estonia, set up your business there. Like, they're trying to attract startups to actually go there. It's very interesting, actually.
And that's part of the European Union. So it's like, again, there's loads of benefits. And then also you're looking like if you're talking about the continent, you're looking like Kigali, like in Rwanda.
We've seen a lot of entrepreneurs go out there as well. They're doing stuff with Google, remember?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And like, Google opened an AI office in Ghana. Like, there's Twitter. Like, if you keep looking at the patterns, that's why I always tell people, don't just peel one layer. Really start like, when you start seeing like a lot of movement one way, you're like, wait, what's going, like, and that's what I always do, is like, I'm always like, wait, there's a lot of movement this way, what is going on here? And then I'll try to ask someone immediately. My first thing is not Google, even as a technologist, is let me ask someone who's moving, why are they moving? I'm interested on a human level what they're doing. So then you find a lot, then I go and research, and then I understand. But that's why I say networking is the most important thing, because once I see that movement this way, I'm like, okay, why is that person going to St. Kitts and Nevis? What is going on there? And you find out, okay, there's a lot of investing you can get basically residency in St. Kitts and Nevis if you invested. I'm like, oh, well, see, I see why someone's doing that. And Rwanda and Kigali, I'm like, I noticed a lot of, to your point, a lot of entrepreneurs are having homes in Kigali. And for me, I just try and talk less and ask more questions. So I'm like, oh, like, why are you moving to Rwanda and Kigali in particular? And then that's when I found out from this person, like, oh, it's one of the cleanest cities in the world because of like the government policy around every I think it's every second week, everyone has to clean up in the community. So then there's no plastic bags and all stuff. And then there's a lot of now companies, and you'll see even like on Arsenal Top Cities to be visit Rwanda. And then those are the kind of things I dig deeper. I'm like, actually, if you think about how much that must cost them to have that on the shirt, what is the plan here of like, why are they doing that?
What's the opportunity?
What's the opportunity? Exactly, there must be an opportunity. And then you read more about that and you understand, oh, okay, so there's a lot going on in Rwanda. And then same in Latam, there's loads of different things in like Brazil happening as well. So as an entrepreneur, you always have to try and keep your eye on the map. And like, for us, just because there's 3 billion gamers worldwide, it's like a mandatory for us to really understand the different markets and spend time being quiet and just visiting just to understand.
The bag was dropped, guys. Bag drop. Where would you like to take it, Seb? I think that's a good place to wrap.
I think that was awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
We got unbelievable amount of gems. The camera even overheated, actually.
Guys, I've been your boy Bejay.
I'm your boy Seb.
And you've been
Wilfrid.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Blocks of Bags. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you've enjoyed this content, please share it with one person. It helps us to keep going.
Ooh.